unfiltered. And totally black and white. By fans, for fans.
What's happening, everyone? It's Kyle from Magpie 24/7. You might notice it's a little bit of a different setup today. We're doing a preview, an old-fashioned preview. Why not? And there's been a couple of things going on in the world of Newcastle United as well. And I'm joined by Owen, formerly of NUFC Cloud, formerly of Magpie Centre as well. But first and foremost, mate, Owen, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing all right. I'm not so happy with Simon Bird's comments today, but we're going to talk about that in the preview as well. Paul, he'll be ranting in his van in a day or two, so don't worry about that, everyone. Owen's just a guest for today. He'll probably pop on a little bit more. He's still to come on a podcast in the next week or so as well, a week or two, who knows. But yeah, it's nice to have Owen involved. Obviously, previous laces and stuff. I know Owen very well, and I still owe my top, I believe. I've still got that. It's still hung up. Don't worry, mate. I've got that sorted. But we'll crack into it. We've got Chelsea on the Monday night, 8 o'clock, and there's a little bit of a different feeling about this one because obviously we haven't been as bad as usual. We haven't been getting humped 5 and 6-0 like we have all season. It could have been in any way, but yeah, we'll go into this one against Chelsea off the back of a decent win last week. And obviously, mate, it's been a while since I've spoken to you. But how do you think it's been the last couple of months under Steve Bruce? Have you been happy? Have you been frustrated? How's it been?
Well, I don't know about the last couple of months under Steve Bruce, but the last couple of weeks under Graham Jones, it's been fantastic.
Get Graham, spot on.
It's been fantastic, really. Crystal Palace was a bit of a one-off, I think, because the signs were still there, I think, and there was definitely that same style of play that was kept in from Everton, but where we haven't been a possession team for a long, long time now, we struggled when we did have the ball. So I'd say the Crystal Palace game was a one-off, but the Saints win and the Everton win were just fantastic, and I feel like we're pushing forward somewhere again. And Graham Jones, obviously he's not the manager, he's only the assistant. But I feel like if results don't go our way soon, Bruce will be sacked, Graham Jones will be put in as the mainstay manager. But yeah, it's been fantastic to see a little bit of an turn in form, and I really hope we can continue that next Monday against Chelsea.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, mate, and without a shadow of a doubt, because Chelsea have just been took over by Thomas Tuchel, who, I'll be honest, I don't know much about. I've just seen him get hired by teams and then get sacked by teams. He's obviously a top flight manager. It's just he hasn't been able to find the right fit for a long term project. And they've had a good start, Chelsea, under him. They've won 3 and drew 1, and they do look good. But we're starting to have an upturn in form as well under Graham Jones, not Steve Bruce. As we've mentioned on the podcast, we're very much Graham Jones in and Steve Bruce out. But yeah, Chelsea look a good team. They've got some amazing players. There's a couple of players in that team I really highly rate. Reece James, I think, is the future of England at right back. Honestly, him and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, are the main two in that position. But Reece James is a breath of fresh air. Honestly, he runs forward. He causes loads of problems. He's very athletic, and he's a good delivery of the ball as well. He's very underrated, I think, in the England setup. Going forward, Timo Werner, although he hasn't started hitting form yet, them couple of seasons for Leipzig and Germany, mate, he was unbelievable. I remember he went to Tottenham in the Champions League and he ripped them apart on his own. He just needs to find the right turn of form. But as Joelinton's proved, German league strikers do tend to struggle in the Premier League. So who knows? But obviously, mate, we've got a couple of injury problems. Wilson's out for 8 weeks. Manquillo's out for probably the rest of the season, and Fabian Schär's the same. But other than that, I think we're seeing pretty sound. But just how important is Callum Wilson to Newcastle? Because I know you've seen him at Bournemouth, down your neck of the woods, and obviously he's came up here and he started very well. I think he's got like 15 goal contributions in 23 games or 19 games, I think it is. He's done very well since he's came up here, but for him to be out for 8 weeks, it's going to be a massive blow to wear attacking it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame because just as we start to play well and find a formation that fits our attacking players, one of them goes in and I think he's pulled his hamstring, hasn't he? So it's a bit of a shame. But I think with this new system, there's not as much to worry about as if we were playing as we were at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Because at the start of the season was very much based around Wilson and moulded around Wilson and just get the ball into him and hope he scores. Whereas now, with the current formation, whether we remain with it again on Chelsea, we are, very much we've got Sir Maximan, who's a focal point now. Obviously, Willock, who we signed in the January transfer window, who can make runs from midfield. Miggy has had an amazing upturn in form, and I've been really, really impressed with him.
Same.
He's been the best player since New Year, and obviously you've got backup strikers as well that can fill in for Wilson. Maybe aren't just as good, like Joe Linton, Gale, Carroll. But I think with this new system, whoever plays in the gap of Wilson will perhaps not succeed in the way that Wilson has, but make a good standing because there's other players around him that can do the work.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, in terms of striking options, we're not very good after Wilson, in my opinion. I think Carroll won't suit that system because we're like ball on the ground, so I think he's quite useless in that department. Right, Gale, maybe. I mean, he had a good upturn of form back in the last season when they were playing the 4-2-3-1. So my thinking is, will we kick on with him up front? But it's a case of whether they go for Carroll, Gale, or they go for Joe Linton, who I think they will go for. Now, I've seen a couple of things on Twitter, mate, regarding Joe Linton. It's like he's got this cult following on Twitter among like football Twitter accounts, which is good. I like that Joe Linton's got support. And a lot of them think it is Joe Linton's time to, it's either sink or swim. Whether it's Joe Linton that gets a chance of Gale, because I think it is down to them too, mate, if I'm honest. I don't think Carroll's in the equation. But who would you go for? Why? Because like it's literally, you could go either way. Do you know what I mean? But which one would you go for?
See, it's a difficult one for me because I really want to see Dwight Gale get some games. I know his contract runs out at the end of the season, but like I feel like he's the closest thing we have to Wilson in terms of style of play. Like, makes the runs in behind. Maybe he's not as physical as a striker as Wilson, but he's around the same mould. But on the other hand, Joe Linton really hasn't had his moment in the Newcastle shirt yet. We've had a few. Obviously, Morecambe away, where he scored that screamer. Spurs, where he scored like his first Premier League goal.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably count in when we beat Sheffield United 3-0 at the end of last season. I think that was
this season as well.
Yeah. I think that was a good performance from him. But I think what we have to do is chuck Joe Linton in and hope that he does well, because if there's any system that he's going to succeed in, it's this one. I wouldn't base him off his performance at Chelsea because that's a completely different game to one against the likes of West Brom, the like of that. But in terms of like I said, in terms of this system, the most chances he's going to get. He's brilliant in build-up play, Joe Linton. He can hold the ball up, wins headers. It's the player you want in that situation. We just have to use him now and hope he performs. I wouldn't expect him to be, banging in the goals because it's like I've said before. I don't think he is an out-and-out striker.
No.
If you look at Hoffenheim, he is either, like a second striker type role, either like sort of a number 10 or like plays just out to the left, where he can take on the fullback. So it's going to be a difficult one if he doesn't succeed because we've spent 40 million on him, and you'd want to see at least 20 to 25 million of that made back when we do decide to sell him. But I think this is probably the best chance he's going to have. And if he doesn't succeed, we've got Gale to fall back on, which is a brilliant
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, and I completely agree, mate. Because I think this, if it doesn't work in this system, a very similar system to the Hoffenheim formation that he played under, if Joelinton doesn't do it now, he's never going to for Newcastle, mate. And I think you were talking 25 million there for Joelinton, but right now, I don't even think we'll get 5, mate. To be honest,
You probably have to loan him out somewhere. Hope he does well in his loan spell and flog him at the end of that.
yeah, that's the only way I could see it, mate. But like he's on the verge of history, to be honest, Joel, and he's on the verge of becoming Newcastle's worst ever signing for me. And it's like I know it might be harsh. You might be thinking, oh, Cisco, Gonzalez, all the shit we've had over the years, but we've never paid £40 million for this type of player. Like in my opinion, mate, and as harsh as it is, I don't even think Jordan's replaced Joselu. To be honest, I don't even think he's filled his boots.
I think
There is a good player there, mate. I completely understand there is a good player there, and they haven't played to his strengths. But if he doesn't show it, and obviously I'll give him a couple of games because Wilson's out for 8 weeks, so he's got a couple of games to prove himself and get used to the formation. But if he doesn't at least look like a threat, if he doesn't look like he's imposing himself on the game, within the next 8 games, he doesn't show us something. I think it's either a loan move in the summer or he's got to go, mate. For me,
yeah, absolutely. But another thing I wanted to talk about was it's sort of change. It wouldn't be a change of the system because I'm sure lots of fans have been confused by what we're actually playing in game. I've seen people say it's 4-1-2-1-2, 4-3-3 with like a false 9, or like whether it's a 4-2-3-1. But if it is a 4-3-3 with a false 9, I would like to see at Chelsea on Monday, Miggy drop into that false 9 role, and then have Fraser and Maxi on either side. I think that would work because there's pace in that front three. So when we break, like with Chelsea,
it is. It's a threat. I think it's more, in my opinion, anyway, mate. I think it's a 4-3-1-2. Because you've got the flat 3 in the midfield, so I don't think there's a CDM in there. And obviously Miggy is playing as a number 10, and then you've got Wilson who goes out wide, and you've got the other striker that goes out wide as a second striker. So for me, I think it's a 4-3-1-2 formation, but yeah, it's an interesting one, mate, because obviously with Callum Wilson, he's been responsible for over 60% of our goals, assists, or goals that he put in himself. So it is, mate. It's a difficult one. For me, Gale is probably a more reliable option, but I do like the thinking of a 4-3-3 false 9 because it would keep relatively the diamond shape if Miggy drops, and I think that would work well, especially on the counter attack, and if we keep pressing the ball as well. But what I do fear is that Bruce is just going to go, it's a big 16, go 5 at the back again, and we'll get humped. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm petrified of. He cannot change the formation back to a 5 at the back team. Graham Jones has got to implement his tactics and his philosophy on this team and so just say, look, Bruce, step aside. You do the interviews, mate. Send assistant and spot and just stick with the tactics that he needs to do, mate, because Bruce has clearly shown that he doesn't have tactical ability against the bigger sides or any side for that matter. So for me, I think Graham Jones needs to do his thing, avoid 5 at the back at all costs, because I think Chelsea were a new arsehole with that formation. And for me, I think I'd go with Gale. Personally, I think Gale in a 4-3-1-2 formation, I think he's a good alternative to Wilson. You don't need to change too much, and obviously you can play either Fraser or Maxi just off of him, and it will be just as effective. So that would be me in any way. But you got any predictions for the Chelsea game? How do you think it's going to pan out, mate?
See, Chelsea's still in their honeymoon period of hiring a new manager. However, what we've seen in the past when managers are just hired as quickly as they were after the sacking of Frank Lampard and this sort of time in the season, the honeymoon period doesn't really last for very long. So, Chelsea have a good team. There's players that are due to hit form in there. I'm thinking predominantly of Havertz, Ziyech, and Werner, the 3 summer signings.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, if they don't hit form on Monday and Chelsea don't come out all guns blazing, then I can see us nicking at least a point in the way that we've been playing as well, because we need a point. We need to keep.
Point would be a good result.
Yeah, we need to keep the momentum going, and I think a point against a top 6 side away from home would be a tremendous thing to take away into the next game week. So my personal prediction, I'm going to go with 1-1. However, I could see it going 2 or 3-1 to Chelsea, but I'm going to be optimistic and go 1-1.
I think 1-1's very optimistic, mate. I do personally think Chelsea will get one over. I think you're right in saying they're in a good honeymoon period. I don't think they've conceded. I think they've only conceded 1 goal since Tunchel came in, so he shored up the defence. And I just think Chelsea will have too much on the day. But I think Newcastle will put in a good performance. I think we'll press, we'll get chances, and obviously Graham Jones will get the limelight even more. So, but it'd be. I think we'll know. I think it's one or two predictions for me, mate. If we'll play 5 at the back and Bruce gets his way, I think we'll get 4 or 5-0. If Graham Jones gets his way and we'll play the 4-3-1-2 formation, I think it'll be 2-1. But it's a tough game, mate. It is. It's a tough game. Chelsea away. We're not very good there. Last time we won was Cissé's wonder goal on the half volley outside of his foot from about 30 yards out next to the corner flag, which was unbelievable. It still defies physics today. But we've covered the preview bit. But there's been some news, mate. Obviously, Simon Bird of the Daily Mirror has released an article today regarding death threats. And that Newcastle fans, he's generalised Newcastle fans sending death threats to Steve Bruce. Now, I'm not too pleased about this, mate. I'm really not. It's really worked us up today, because although I agree with the sentiment of death threats shouldn't be happening, obviously they shouldn't. It's I wouldn't want any harm or any threats going to the family or the man, that Steve Bruce. He doesn't deserve that, regardless how bad of a manager he's been or anything. That he does not deserve any of that. And the people that send threats should be dealt with. Justice should come to them. The police should be either arresting, sending warnings, or fining them, or whatever it may be, taking them off social media, whatever they want to do, as long as it's a harsh enough punishment that a lot of other people see fit. Due diligence needs to be served and get them sorted out. But his headline today was as if it's just so generalised, as if all Newcastle fans are sending death threats, and this really annoys me, mate, because it is a sensitive subject. But I think it's really unfair that the entire fan base is getting tarred with this brush, that we're sending this bloke death threats and stuff. It really annoys me. Like, I know Steve Bruce we'll think what we'll think of Steve Bruce. I thought he should have been sacked after the Brentford game where we lost in the cup. Personally, I thought that should have been his last game. But any hate I've seen, it's been focused mainly on the football. I've not seen these death threats personally. After Simon Bird's article, I went and looked for these death threats. I could only I found 4. I got sent 4 in the form of 4 screenshots in one of my Twitter posts that I put up. I've seen them. The people that have done them are a disgrace, and I don't think the Newcastle fans in any capacity send that type of hate to a man. But that's 4 tweets I've seen. But you're tarring the brush of a fan, but you're tarring the brush over the whole fan base. But for what I've found to be 4 tweets, I seen that Steve Bruce said in his press conference yesterday, mate, that he received these death threats. What do you think of what do you think of? Because obviously I'm not happy with how Simon Bird's managed to tar a whole fan base with this brush. But what would your input be? How would you look to handle this situation going forward?
Well, first of all, I don't condone death threats in any way, shape, or form. It's football. As passionate as we are about it, as how much we care about it, this is someone's life we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not 90 minutes on a Saturday. This is someone's life we're talking about. And no man, even how crap his football can be, I still respect Steve Bruce as a person. You know, he seems like an all right guy, and he doesn't deserve to have death threats. You know, I've personally not seen death threats online. I'm not saying they haven't happened. I'm sure they have. Like you said, you found 4.
Yeah, they have happened. It's just a very minuscule amount, mate.
Exactly. And I think, to paint a whole fan base with the same brush is, first of all, really poor journalism. For someone who sort of wants to go into journalism and wants to learn about the trade, I know full well already at 18 years of age, the very minimal amount that I've done, that is incredibly boring and lazy journalism to just attack an entire fan base over a few tweets and a manager's word in a press conference is just really lazy and just downright ridiculous. But from Simon Burr's perspective, he probably just wants the clicks. He probably wants the reads, the clicks, you name it. So that's probably some explanation as to why he's done it. But I think to go back to the death threat conversation, I think it comes back to the same sort of thing as when we talk about how Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these social medias combat racism and attack, like we've seen in recent weeks. Name one player, Axel Tuanzebe of Manchester United, he racially abused online for making a mistake in a game, which is just utterly ridiculous. Because again, this is someone's the way they've been brought up, that the colour of their skin, they can't help that. It's got nothing to do with their footballing ability at all. And I think social media companies really need to knuckle down on how they're going to combat this abuse that people of fame or not fame are getting online. And I think it needs to start with putting a name to a face on people's social media accounts. And by that I mean you should have to issue a picture of your passport. You should have to issue, if you have one, a picture of your driving license, an official document, or more. I think probably more than one official document to prove that you actually are that person. So that when you do something that is utterly horrific and uncondonable online, you should be held. It should be held against you, and you should be able to be directly attacked for that and directly prosecuted for that, because after all, you're not just some account online. You are that person behind the account, and that's what these people that are receiving these messages see, is that a person has sent them a death threat or abused them online.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good response, mate, and that's how it should be handled. I think Newcastle have became in this instance, Newcastle fan base has become a victim of the lack of action that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram have taken regarding the whole scope. It's more than just racism here, death threats, bullying online. I think it really needs to come to a point where these social media companies do need to be held accountable, because obviously a lot of these faces are nameless, and obviously they've got pictures of whatever it may be, and it's not their real identity. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, mate. I think it's more than just Steve Bruce's death threats. It's racism, it's homophobia, it's everything, mate. It all goes under the umbrella, and I think the book needs to go to the door of these social media companies. And I think it's a damn good response, mate, if I'm honest. And I think we've just became, like, the fan base today have become the victim of the lack of action that's been taken from these companies, because a journalist has took advantage of the situation and just tried to label us people that send death threats and that. And like, I'm not going to lie, I've spoke about Steve Bruce critically since November, I think, regarding his managerial status and stuff, and how he shouldn't be in the job. And I voiced my opinion regarding that and how poor we've been on the field. But I haven't for a second, mate, even considered threatening his family or considered threatening his livelihood. Do you know what I mean? I'm not that type of person. I'll critique him as a football manager, and I have on the podcast. You can go and listen to them if you wish to, but I wouldn't, in good conscience, threaten a man's life or threaten a man's family. I've been raised not to do that, and many Newcastle fans like myself, like you, Owen, have been raised exactly the same. Not to take the piss out of people like that, where you're threatening a man's family, man. It's just so wrong. And to be basically tarred with that brush for those people who have took that action and threatened Steve Bruce's life. I think it's wrong. Just for a cliche headline in a newspaper, it's very poor journalism from Simon Bird, and I'd expect better from a newspaper as nationally recognised as the Daily Mirror, and it's piss poor from them, to be honest. But I think it's a very mature resolution you've got there, Owen. I think someone should hire you. CV in the no, I'm only joking, but no, it's a mature response, mate, and I think something more needs to be done from these social media companies, as well as Simon Bird, who needs to improve his journalism skills, and social media who need to improve the skills worldwide in every instance, not just this case, but in every other as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a wider scope than football to end this one on, but it's been a good one on. It's been a good catch up and stuff. We'll probably have you on the podcast in a couple of weeks if you're okay to come on. We'll shoot the breeze about one or two of the games if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm looking forward to it already.
Spot on, mate. That's all good. But I hope you've enjoyed this type of preview. If you want more of it, just leave your comments in the box, and I'll comment back as best I can, because I had a couple of problems the last time, but managed to get it by. But we'll always leave us for now, people, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Catch us on the next podcast as well. See you later, everyone.